I, one of the things that we start with is the title of the book. And it's not a question or a discussion that I want to have. As you look around in this room, there are some things, most things have changed, whether in material or design or the concept itself, even this thing which has been replaced by new technology. But there are a few things which never change. A ladder is a ladder. You cannot reimagine the ladder. You just cannot reimagine the ladder. I don't know whether our lives will be, changed. The ladder is fundamental. I don't know how you thought of it. So, it's so simple for all of us. It is something which has never changed, and it's been there maybe 100 years back, and I suppose it will be there. You can't replace the ladder. And then, of course, gold in India you can never replace. If you ask me, I can tell you. So, Golden Ladder is such an appropriate title to this book. Okay, so let me, this book has 21 success mantras, and as Vijay said, you cannot separate, at least I don't think we can separate one from the other. Each of them is intricately linked with some other mantra, certainly, and that's the way I think all of us think, at least in India, that there are it's not a 0-1 kind of digital life anymore. And this book talks about that. So, I just want to, this is like what we used to do in school, After preparing for the exam, to figure out whether you know everything correctly. Look, Ram is already laughing. You have to pick up a random page and figure out whether you can answer that question. So I've just picked out a random page. Okay? Not from you. This is not a quiz for you. This is for me to figure out whether I have read the book or not. Anyway, so Vijay, we have that one chapter, which is chapter 2, I think, vision, mission, values. This has been so many times, so many companies have talked about the need for a vision, and then it is there behind the managing directors or the chairman's office, behind his head, and so everybody must, whatever, do. So can you just, tell us a little bit about how you think about, have you written a lot in the book about it?
Actually, thank you, Bhaskar, once again. And this was one of the biggest challenges even in writing the book, because I think Hari, has written a lot. I don't know where he is, about after reading, on this chapter. The challenge is that most of the people believe that this vision, mission, and values are just, like you said, something behind in there. But what I have realized is, literally, the people who have made a difference, every single one of them, like, for example, I was talking about, which I've written in the book, when a couple of people died consuming cyanide-laced tablet in Johnson & Johnson. And then what really transpired in that organization was how Johnson & Johnson has got some phenomenal vision called the Credo, and how they actually went back to the Credo and really believed in it for him to get that courage to be able to do what he did. For the first time, actually, I don't want to say too many things in the book, but for the first time, they actually recalled 10 million bottles of that cyanide-laced Tylenol, and it made major success. So if your vision is very, very clear, then I think, it's really the purpose. And the purpose of why you want to do what you want to do. And mission is actually how you want to do what you want to do. And like we had the discussion even around the beginning of the writing of the book, you asked me a very important question. Ladder is good, but what will it lean on? And I really thought about it, and that's what values is what the ladder leans on. And I think that came from you, and that's part of the book, and thank you so much. And that's what I believe. It's really critical for this.
Thank you. I like the number 2, so we finished chapter 2. So 2 squared is chapter 4 now. Okay. So, and that happens to be what business. This is something all of us at IMA, it's been drilled into our, what is the business you're in, okay? So I remembered a line when I was reading this chapter. I don't know, how many of you seen Manthan? Have you seen Manthan? That, and there is one, this cynic, you know, I don't know if you know that there is this, you must have read Animal Farm, and Benjamin, the ass, the donkey is the cynic in that. And only when you convince the cynic does the, thing, else, whatever, least common denominator. So there is Naziruddin Shah. Finally, he's convinced that this model of cooperative will work. And he says in Gujarati, and you know the intensity of Naziruddin Shah, he says, Sisoti apni hai. You know, the whole till them, it's about this guy has come from somewhere, he's forcing this business model on us. And then he tells the villagers, Sisoti apni hai. This society is ours. The business of, getting the milk, etc. So what business are we in? Very interesting. But I must complain to you that the first example you got was you went and bought a Rolex watch. I mean, So Daytona, that guy didn't. Anyway, it's okay.
Yeah,
that's I'll see you outside bar.
See, I think this is one fundamental thing that differentiates how legends are made and how the majority of the business is run. And once again, not to take the steam out of the book, the majority of the people are actually talking about, my product has got so many features, it's got this benefit, it can actually do this, my television can actually become an oven, whatever it is. But the true guys who are really in the business of leaving a legacy and living beyond their time, they don't talk of any of this. If you see some of the examples that I've given, either a Gillette or a Coke or Tata's, they never talk about their product, never, right? And because the day you talk about your product, you talk about your features, you made the customer the king. The customer will then come back to you with 100,000 more features, and then you will have to defend that product. But the day you actually work with a model which is actually unchangeable over time, then the customer, you become the king. And then the customer actually becomes your ambassador. He starts actually, becoming a real person who wants to promote your product. And the differentiation is one fundamental word, which hasn't changed through the centuries. Every single thing in the world has changed. Every single thing, except one. I'll give you one example. You're walking in the night, around 1 o'clock in the night, all alone on a deserted street, and you hear footsteps behind. And the footsteps start becoming louder. And you really don't want to turn behind, but the stories of the Netflix start haunting you. Who is this behind? There's something gnawing in your chest. Fear. That hasn't changed. Over centuries, fear hasn't changed. Similarly, over centuries, when you actually to see someone go off at the airport, knowing that you may or may not see her again, and you come back alone, that hasn't changed, the sadness. What hasn't changed over centuries is one word, emotion. And if you can work around that word, and that's how brands are created, and that's how legacies are created. And that's the thing that you need to be in. You know it so much more. I mean, you can ask me, but and you have done it. And I think Tanishq is probably, in my opinion, I've written everywhere and I speak everywhere. If there are 2 or 3 brands that India has produced, Tanishq stands top. And not because he's there, but I really believe. And Amul is one of them, and AquaGuard, etc. But Tanishq stands so much in terms of defining every single thing that they have done over the decades. So that's what is meaning of what business we are in. We are not in the business of products and benefits and attributes and things like that.
Thanks, Vijay. Just to a little bit tangential on this, where maybe, that whatever tunnel vision that we guys have, some of us, one of the problems of painting a vision as well as what business are we in, if we paint it a little not understandable to a layman, we have to do both. So one of the problems is that a business entity is a business entity only when it makes money. You know, it is so, nowadays it's so unfortunate to say, no, money is not everything. Yeah, money is not everything, but it is the starting point. If you don't make money, you can call yourself not for profit. Then you're in another league, okay? So to that person, and I'm just sharing one thing with you, which is to that person who's doing the last bit of polishing, and Kannan here knows that, polishing, we sold Swiss watches as well. Polishing, just to get that polish right on the case, is for him to think that if I do the polishing right, somebody in a shop in France is going to appreciate and buy this product and get this company the revenue, and therefore, you know, the profit, and then the company will do something. Okay, it is not all articulated, but the importance of that business entity has to be creating value. Now, what you do with the value, and it's not for valuation, you talked about it a lot. The value is intrinsic, and therefore how to marry that with the large, big picture that we are talking about, vision, is a challenge to many, many CEOs, you know, and therefore some of them who get stuck with the theory end up with that poster behind them. So I'll take one more.
I just want to add one point to what you said. In fact, in one of the places in the book I write, this book is not for creating the biggest unicorn in the next 48 hours by having a revenue of 10 crores and a loss of 5,000 crores. So this is not about that. If that's the league, then, you know, then don't pick up this book. So.
I want to, one chapter which, you know, all of us will love, I'm sure, and, you know, which is close to my heart, the Golden Assets Club, Mantra 11, this is also 2, so 1, 2. So, people only they matter. I think we can go on for hours on this subject. Maybe you should throw a little light and your wisdom on this.
I guess everyone here, I'm sure, have gone through this. The only asset that matters are the people. I mean, today it's unfortunate for people to say that you're all part of our family, and then suddenly 10,000 people are asked to go. But if you see any of these legends who've been there for centuries, not many people have been ever asked to go. And because if somebody is actually asking someone to go, then he's really not part of the family. Now, the only way that you can have the best of the person is when he feels ownership for what he does. And in this book, I have given multiple ways of how you can actually create ownership. When your child drops a vase, an expensive vase, you don't ask that person or the child to actually leave the house. You actually, when you empower somebody with the freedom to fail, that's when you actually create ownership, and that's the key. And like that, I have realized that finally, if not for the people, either the customers or the employees, the business doesn't exist. So that's where I come from, and there are multiple examples in the book where I have been personally witness to. So
yeah, I must read this out. This kept me awake, so I will read. Yeah. You'll have to squirm now. It was 12:15 in the afternoon, and a major presentation to the board that could last for a couple of hours was scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Sandeep, name changed, our marketing, this is Vijay speaking, okay? Sandeep, our marketing manager, seemed a bit on the edge, and though typically very enthusiastic, his eyes betrayed a certain melancholy. It then suddenly struck me, Vijay. It was his 3-year-old daughter Divya's birthday. God, how did I miss this? I called Sandeep aside and told him, Sandeep, my sincere apologies for having fixed this meeting today. I completely forgot Divya's birthday. Please jump into your car and head home. I will manage the presentation this time. Not an issue at all. Sandeep could not believe what he had heard. It was like a miracle. Now do you know the Vijay of now why I said what I said? I think this is, I didn't know that you were like that, but this is really, really astounding, you know. That requires guts, that requires belief. Everything that you said in this book, you know, kind of is captured in there. I think just for that we should give him a big round of applause. I mean, 2 hours of presentation and you're going to take it on yours. That's how a leader is. You were not a manager, you were a leader. You were willing to take on your subordinate's role, job, his emotion, the whole works. Well done.
Thank you. Coming from you, it means a lot. Yeah, thanks.
So I read the book. And there are lots more. So Vijay, I mean, we'll go to the second bit, which is the right leg. Only you are in the best position to talk about this. You know, the leap beyond, the last leap beyond, those are, even I couldn't imagine. I just about understood the words. I couldn't understand the concept. So maybe you should tell our friends here.
No, there are multiple things in this. I mean, one of the things that you refer to are like, I feel a lot of us do our best and feel that we have achieved something phenomenal. And I said that that's when we are at a 99 in our life. Actually, if you ask somebody, how many people do you know who have scored the maximum number of 99s? He may not remember even one. But if you tell him how many people you know with the maximum number of centuries, he would rattle off like that. One run, and it actually changes somebody from a non-entity to a celebrity. One run that makes somebody walk out in, diffidence, and whereas the other one walks out in elation. What is that one run that shifts you from, like Jim Collins says, good to great, from great to exceptional? And that one run is when you recognize you're at 99, when you're really at the best, and then put in your, and I've given certain techniques of how you recognize you're at 99 and how you go towards 100. And that's hell of a lot to do with the right leg. And so that's what I have seen people who have really made a difference to themselves. Yeah.
I know we're running out of time. The last two, which is 20, I'm lucky I've found this. I think this will be most interesting for all of us. The Pythagoras theorem that you spoke about. I understood it. But the role of that hypotenuse, I think only you can explain. Please do. The role of something called...
A lot of people have told me that it's great that you actually explained something about the left leg and something about the right leg, and you can do this, hard work, emotion, multiple things. But I believe, like certain people have told me, but I believe there's only one thing in life, and that's luck. And if you are lucky, you'll make it. If you're not lucky, you will not make it. Now, I didn't want to take that lying down, right? So I thought about it for a long time, and then I came up with this, which I felt good about, is that I believe that luck definitely matters. Where you're born, the toss of the coin makes all the difference. But it has a role. So I try to put it in what is known as the Pythagoras theorem, where the two sides, a square plus b square is equal to c square. Now, in a and b sides, I have said the side A is the domain leg, and side B is your right leg, and therefore and the hypotenuse is the luck. So based on how well you have actually formulated the domain leg and the right leg, your hypotenuse luck will play your way. So like, the destiny versus free will, you always have that free will to bring luck towards yourself. So this is what my thoughts are on that.
I totally agree with you. As far as I am concerned, the hypotenuse came first. I think I've been lucky at the right place, at the right time, with the right people, and therefore my journey, the rest fell in place after the hypotenuse.
No, that's being humble, like anything, obviously. That's
I think
beyond humility.
No, anyway, that's my point of view. Should we? We've come to 20.
How are we doing, Surabhi, on time? Yeah. So we'll
time up, or means we have another 5. I think we should.
Yeah, we can ask. So if anybody has questions, I think.
I'm just reminded of a Shakespearean quote. Some are born great, some have achieved greatness, and some have greatness thirst upon them. We have two giants sitting on the stage from middle class, humble backgrounds who achieved remarkable progress in the corporate world. Bhaskar, after his Godrej stint, was with Titan throughout. Vijay was with Procter & Gamble, J&J, and Alfoot in quite a few organizations. I have one question to ask Bhaskar. We all know the kind of challenges that Titan faced at various stages. Like Sunil Gavaskar, whether it is Lords or MCG or Sydney, whether he was facing any fast bowler, Bob Willis or Ian Botham, Gavaskar was the same. Bhaskar was able to stay at the crease, steadfast. What is the secret? Can you please reveal it today?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kannan. First of all, when I was reading the book, I remembered you that the other brand, there are brands of people who also outlive, and he's Shakespeare. He went all the way to Stratford-on-Avon. Venkat, the current CEO, he dragged him along to Stratford-on-Avon because he wanted to see the birthplace of. That's Kannan for you. Okay. And having done that, we would sell watches on the streets of Mangalore and not be allowed inside. And incidentally, he has appeared back. The version, Google's version of ChatGPT is called the Bard. Are you aware of that? It's called the Bard. Bard, it's called. Kannan, I think you know as well as I do. I think we thought simply without complicating things at that time. And I think the biggest gift that Xerxes Desai gave us, probably the Tata Group gave us, was putting the company ahead of ourselves with the trust that the company would put us ahead of itself in that virtuous cycle. So, and during those difficult days of negotiations with the unions in Tamil Nadu, etc., somehow we couldn't communicate to them that this was our sincere intent and the future is going to be bright. Give up something today, and I promise you. And the promise is only me, my words in front of you, because I have a 5-year target to achieve. And I promise. I'm just giving you one example. Much later, we had a 68-day lockout. It didn't work, and all kinds of things happened. Leave us. But after that, they came back and said, we should have listened to you. Now, leave that aside. At that time, to feel that you're on top, and then say, I will now negotiate, 68-day wage, then you say, I will pay you less than what you deserve, etc. The big decision the company took was, we will reinstate the wages fully, pay them the entire amount. Now, what happens there is, the business case there is, people kept saying, incidentally, the late Cyrus Mistry asked me to make a presentation about, you're known as a soft company, so people think, So we used to say everything as a business case. The business case there was very simple. And Mr. Ishaq Hussain told me this. Look, in Tata Steel, the union guys sit at the same table as the management. There is nothing called union versus management. The problem is in the middle, not the people are not on either side of the table. And that one action brought everybody on the same page and said, henceforth, we'll solve the problem, which is the high cost of the company, the low profitability, market cap, whatever you said, being less than, at that time, way below Tata Motors. Now it's way above Tata Motors, and so on and so forth. So I think that those kinds of belief systems, which is put the company ahead, we were able to communicate even to the people thereafter. And to the common worker, these things don't, when we said profit sharing to that guy, the union leader, he said, sir, idella pesadinga sir, profit sharing la board room la pesunga sir, idu board illa, neenga engalukku sollunga evlo kodukka poringa. I'm just telling you, talk profit sharing in the board room. Here you tell us how much you're going to give tomorrow. What will you sign on? It was very difficult to convince them. I don't know whether that was a good example, Kannan. What we faced in the market, you were the guys. I was not the Sunil Gavaskar.
No, no.
I was just the non-playing
No,
captain.
no, you are very humble, Bhaskar.
We are having a mic. So,
Oh, one
Yeah.
more.
Do
you know Varun Govindraj?
so this one is okay. On your second leg itself, which emotion you feel is the strongest for the mind?
There are only two emotions in the world.
Which emotion do you feel is the strongest?
The right leg, which emotion is the strongest? This guy is also his dad, Titan guy.
Dad is Titan. Oh. Your dad Titan, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. No, his question is like, which emotion is the strongest in the right leg? So I strongly believe there are only two emotions in the world. One is love and the other is fear. And every emotion that works around, and I have left fear out in discussing in the book how you can actually generate businesses using fear. But there are multiple emotions which are associated with love, like, for example, pride and self-worth and aspiration and inspiration and things like that. So in these is where I think you need to read the book to be able to get a true feel.
I haven't got there yet, but yeah, I will.
Yes, Hari. Firstly, Hari, thank you so much.